so he wanted to check it out. Said he'll call me.
Call the public committee meeting of the town of Madisonville, Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026 to order.
Councilman Haddocks? Councilman Brown?
Present.
Councilman Dennis?
Present.
Councilwoman Faison?
Present.
Councilman Ogle?
Present.
Mayor Pelot?
Present. If you would, please silence your phone. Stand for the pledge by Councilman Ogle.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. Members of the audience will have 3 minutes to make a statement or express a concern to the council. Is anyone here to speak to the council tonight? Seeing no one, we'll move into the agenda. The first thing on the agenda is the Finance Committee members, Councilman Bounds, Councilman Haddocks, and there's nothing listed in the finance part. Is Councilman Bounds, is anything to bring up? Nothing to bring up. We'll move into operations and maintenance. Committee members, Councilman Ogle, Councilman Dennis. First thing on the list is an update on the milling and overlay on Renee Street and portions of Cedar Street. The only update I have to do is tell you that the work's all done. It's been done, it's been striped, and today they were actually working on the shoulders of the road. So I think everything for the most part is done, and it looks great. Hopefully you've seen it. Any questions or comments?
I went and walked through there. I guess it was yesterday or the day before. I think it looks great too. Stacy, what do you think?
It looks nice. I rode it before they striped it and rode it afterwards, and it's looking really nice. And the catch basins are looking really good too. Those are almost complete with all of those in town.
Yeah. Okay, if no other comments, we'll move on to the next thing. It's update on drainage work on St. Louis Street. Actually, the plans are pending from Fort Tabata on the drainage, and there's nothing been planned or done since our last meeting. Any thoughts or comments there?
I have none.
If none, we'll move on to Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation Committee members are Councilman Haddocks and Councilwoman Faison. First thing is update on the riverfront improvements.
We did have a meeting today. It was a virtual meeting with the landscape architect, Joey Furr. We're going to follow up with him. There's still a couple of things that we need to wrap up before we're ready to present it here at the town for everyone to give us input on. That's pretty much it.
And there was, so actually both of the committee members and myself were on the phone call, and I thought it was good. We hashed out a few things that we thought might have been a concern, and he's coming back, and I think it's scheduled for Tuesday. Is that correct? The follow-up meeting?
Yes.
At 2 o'clock. So thank you very much. No questions. We'll move on to update on the Gar Rodeo. The Gar Rodeo is set. We've met with Police Chief, myself, Kyle, met with Casey. We discussed pretty much the layout, everything that traffic flow, what could happen, what is going to go on, and I think with the weather, it appears that it's going to miss us, And that's a good thing, because it would have certainly, if the water and the rain would have been heavy, we would have had to move some of the events outside of the park. At this point, it doesn't look like that's going to keep us from bringing the stage or anything inside. So we were blessed so far that we not going to have too much rain and do too many variations or altercations to the plan. Any questions? If none, we'll move into public safety. Public safety committee members, Councilman Dennis, Councilman Bounds. Update on police hires. Council, y'all want to do anything?
Unfortunately, our latest new hire is no longer with us. That was an event that happened, but the chief is currently working with another applicant that's looking pretty good, so we're working on that right now, and he should be on board hopefully soon, as far as that goes.
Any further questions on this? Or if none, we'll move into next thing on the agenda with public safety is long guns. And we have a draft that's been submitted by Councilman Ogle. Councilman, you have any comment?
Well, I gave this out, I guess, at our last meeting. Asked everybody to take a look at it and read it. So I guess at this point, this is a starting point for discussion, in my opinion. If anybody has anything to discuss or comments on it, that's where we are.
I do. I'd like to enter my thoughts into the public record in regards to this. I penciled some things together over the past couple of days, and Mayor and Council, I wish to share my feelings regarding the proper roles and responsibilities associated with establishing policies governing the issuance and use of long guns by members of the police department. It is my understanding that the town council has the authority to enact ordinances authorizing the police department to acquire and issue long guns, submit the necessary funding, and establish the legal framework under which the department operates. However, the detailed operational policies and procedures governing the issuance, training, qualifications, maintenance, storage, accountability, and deployment of those firearms are generally considered administrative functions that should fall under the responsibility of the chief of police. These procedures and policies should be developed by our police leadership based upon law enforcement standards and best use practices, and should be reviewed with our town attorney to ensure compliance with applicable federal, state, and local laws. Such review protects both the municipality and our police department from unnecessary legal liabilities. It's these reasons it is generally not considered appropriate for an individual councilman to write an ordinance for operational procedures regulating the issuance and use of long guns by police officers. Doing so may blur the distinction between the legislative responsibilities of the town council and the administrative authority vested in the chief of police. Maintaining this separation of responsibilities promotes sound municipal governance, preserves the chief's chain of command, and helps ensure that operational decisions remain in the hands of qualified law enforcement professionals. I respectfully request that any ordinance authorizing the issuance of long guns and the operating procedures and guidelines be written only by our police chief, along with guidance from our town attorney for legal compliance regarding this issue. Doing so solidifies our protection for our police department officers and the town from opportunistic lawsuits. Upon completion of the procedures and guidelines by the chief and town attorney, I would be willing to discuss this issue further for implementation. And that's it.
I have a few questions. Councilman, you submitted this proposal. Did you get it from somewhere, from other department?
How many gun policies have anybody up here written?
Nobody.
That's the same number I wrote. That's the same number I wrote.
From another department.
Yeah, so.
So can you tell us where you got it from?
No, I have plenty of experience with guns. I mean, I was in infantry division for 2 years, shot every kind of gun that we had in the division, but I don't think it's applicable to this situation.
No.
So, yeah, I looked at different policies. This one came almost verbatim from the New Orleans Police Department.
Okay,
So it's been in effect there since 2015.
okay.
And-
No, I was just wondering where you got it. I mean, that was really,
Now, I wanted something that, I guess had been in place for a while, that had been tested. Yeah, it had been tested by experience on the ground, and that figured that's the best place to start right there. So their policy was written in 2015, it was revised in December of that year, revised again twice in 2019, and the latest revision was 2023.
I just was wondering where it came from. Second question is, or really my statement is that I think this should be submitted to the Public Safety Committee as another tool to, I think, discuss with the police chief. Has this been discussed with the police chief? Have you discussed this with the police chief?
Yeah, I gave him a copy.
So he's unaware of this and seeing it for the first time? I don't know that really we can discuss anymore. Submit it to the Public Safety Committee, who is the committee who the recommendations should come through. And they meet with him on a at least a monthly basis, sometimes twice a month. And other times I know I'm not fully aware of how often they meet, but it's emails that go back and forth that I'm not included on, which is okay with me. But I think this is something that just needs to go to the Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee can take the steps necessary to meet with the police chief and get recommendations back from him. That's my thoughts.
The reason I submitted it was because of the last, I guess it was the last committee meeting, Tim had mentioned that they were waiting on a policy. They didn't have a policy to consider. So, to me, public safety is everyone's responsibility up here. There's nothing in the charter that actually says, we have a committee for this, and some idea or ordinance would have to go through that committee before it comes before the council. But in terms of this, in public safety, the issue that comes up to me is that we're all responsible for what happens in this town and for making sure that residents are safe, that our employees are safe. This sat in committee for 2 years. This was requested by the police department 2 years ago. Until I presented this policy, we'd never seen a policy to even consider this. So I don't think we need to wait anymore on the Public Safety Committee to do something. They already showed that they are interested in it. But to me,
I don't know, I mean, y'all speak for yourself.
to me, it's everybody's responsibility. Beyond that, we have large public gatherings here in town that I believe are a target. We have parades in town. We have activities on the riverfront. There was, just a couple of years ago, there was a terror attack on Bourbon Street where the city of New Orleans, yes, they didn't have the proper barricades up, and several people lost their lives from the guy who drove over from Texas. And now there's 21 plaintiffs suing the city of New Orleans, the police department. Those are responsibilities that all of us have, not any individual. And that's why I have this policy up before us. It was brought up by the police department. It was requested by a police officer. The police officer was working overnight by himself. I think he had concerns for his own safety. And I've talked to family members of his who also had concerns for his safety.
You want to go first? You want me?
Well, first off, the safety committee, for the past 2 years, it's not that we haven't been concerned about it. At the last time this was brought up in '24, it was brought to the chief's attention that he should put it together. It should come from his department. He's law enforcement. You're not an officer, and you're not an attorney. Is that correct? Neither am I. Neither's Tim or any other council person up here. So Barney has the law enforcement experience and the knowledge to draft one of these up. He could simply do the same thing you did. Just pull one of these off the internet. I've got 7 of them. I brought, just coincidentally, New Orleans tonight. You said this came from New Orleans. So it's something simple to do, but it has to be massaged to fit Madisonville. Madisonville is not like New Orleans. Madisonville is not like Mandeville or Folsom or whatever. We haven't written this off. We're just waiting on the paperwork to come through with guidelines and procedures. The state police told us we would be crazy to put long guns in our units without a proper procedure and guideline manual put in place. But it hasn't been massaged and looked at from our legal department or from the chief.
This is a starting point. It's a proposal.
Yeah.
It says draft on it.
But don't say the Public Safety Committee has been sitting on it for 2 years and not worried about it. You're trying to make it sound like Tim and I are not worried about the safety of our town. That is so wrong. That is the first thing that we talk to you about all the time, is our safety. You're bringing up these situations where there's large groups of people on the riverfront or whatever. You don't want to shoot a long rifle into a group of people. You know how far an AR-15 goes and how fast it goes? I can tell you stories of Harahan, I'm sorry, it's Gretna, I believe, was where the police were shooting through one house at a suspect and it was going through the house behind it. So there's procedures that we have to follow. And until we get a procedural and guidelines program put together, we're not going to entertain this. Now, once that's put into place, like I said at the end of my letter, I'll be happy to look at it and we'll think about putting enforcement to it. So we're not ruling it out. As far as the police officer that's no longer with us that worked at night, I heard that story several times. But you forgot to put the story of his car was stolen and his car had that rifle in it, and that rifle had blood all over it where the guy that stole it was trying to get it out of the lock base. Thank goodness it was locked down. Some people say it should have been in the trunk. Why do they have it up by the console? But that's why they make console locks for long guns. But again, things happen. So until we get the policy in place, I'm not willing to discuss it until that happens.
But I have 7 instances in this policy where an officer might take that gun out. I think it's possible, maybe even happens a lot, that an officer never even takes a long gun out during their career.
Same thing with their service revolver.
But there's 7 instances here, specific instances, where it would be authorized. And I think they're all instances where we would want an officer to be able to have this type of weapon to defend himself and defend the public.
Am I correct in understanding that this is just optional? It's not a requirement based on what I've read. So each officer would have the option to have the long gun, not be required, correct?
At this
They won't
point,
have policies written for the municipality.
at this point, yes, and I also, in the policy, I give the town marshal, the police chief, a lot of discretion on, how he approves whether somebody has a long gun or does not have a long gun. But, just the fact that, we have several schools around us, we've got events in town, to me, it makes sense to look at this. And again, I didn't ask for this. A police officer that worked for us for 14 years, a good bit by himself overnight, keeping all of us safe, came to us twice and asked us for this. And that's why I'm presenting it for consideration.
Just to be clear, I am in support of moving forward and having Barney and Bruce do whatever needs to be done to support this policy. I like the option. I think that we should support our officers in this structure. for several reasons. I did work in the gun industry for 14 years. I do think that it's an important option to have. I think the only thing that I would like to see is maybe a little more training requirement, and that would be up to Barney, obviously. That's something that I think would be a next level that maybe other departments aren't doing. And it's kind of a known thing, I think, in police departments, is that officers often don't train as much as they probably should. And that would make me feel more comfortable knowing that there was a higher requirement of training to qualify.
I'm not saying that the Public Safety Committee does not care about public safety. To me, this boils down to a matter of respect. Do we respect the police officer that came to us and said, I'm asking for this? And it's a sign of respect for me. We ought to have a legitimate conversation about what I consider as an important and a legitimate topic that he brought to our attention.
Well, I disagree that we disrespected that officer. Because we didn't allow him to carry his rifle in his car, because we did not have a policy and procedure in place. The legal liabilities of that, I even stated that in my comment back in 24 or 23, whenever it was that it would also help protect him if we had it in place. But as far as the training, the calibration, every year those guns have to be calibrated. Training, fortunately for us, we have our own training officer in-house, and he has his own range, so that's a good thing. But until we get the procedures and guidelines in place, it's a no-brainer. But once we have that in place, we can approach that again and talk about implementing it.
Yes, touch on a few points that were put out there tonight. One, the officer that brought this to our attention had the utmost respect for what he did while he was here, the years he was here, but please understand, he was carrying that rifle illegally or in violation of department policy, which is a concern. I understand the logic behind it. And was certainly hoping that wouldn't come out in public notes, which it is now, which I think is defames what he's done for us successfully for so long. The second thing, that this is sat dormant and was left unaddressed after he brought that to our attention that night is an absolute, it's just a lie, it's incorrect. It was addressed that night in the council meeting. I haven't gone back and watched the meetings over. If I remember correctly, the answer was no, right? Barney, is that correct? It was an absolute no that night, right? Something brought to us in the beginning, something we got to look at. It's very alarming to think of any officer, whether it's one of ours, whether it's a trooper, whether it's an FBI agent firing a long rifle in our town, especially at a mass gathering. From there, we worked with the chief, we discussed it with the mayor, and we pursued some opportunities to develop a policy. And like we always do in our safety committee meetings, we work very closely with the chief, and we put the utmost faith and trust in what he wants to do. And at that point, there wasn't a reason given. It became dormant. It wasn't something, I think, that I know it wasn't something that I wanted to see or intentionally put dormant at Keith nor Barney. It's a situation, so to sit here and imply on public record that the chief nor the safety committee just let it go without being addressed is an absolute incorrect statement to make. And am I speaking correctly, Chief? I mean, we've had some good conversations about it, and we've actually, obviously, when I looked at the agenda, I called Chief since then, and we talked briefly about it. And yes, we can sit here all night long and talk about the nuts and bolts of the policy. I'm not going to pretend to tell you what's supposed to be in it. That's what we have attorneys for. That's what we have specialists for. I think the only discussion here should be is, do we move forward with developing a policy? And I'm going to do what we've done before. I'm going to meet with the chief of police. If it's something he wants to pursue, then by all means, Keith and I have his back and we pursue it. So it's not something that was left intentionally behind. I don't want the public to think that. So there's no need in sitting here discussing the language. I mean, everybody here has access to AI. You throw this into an AI program, I guarantee it comes back with 5, 6 minimum adjustments we should make. But that's what we hire the professionals. That's what we have Barney. That's what we have Bruce to do. So my response and my commitment remains where it was, however long it goes when it first came up. If it's a policy that that the chief wants to move forward with, if it's something that this is the right time for us to pick up and move forward, by all means, we got you back. We meet with you. We figure out how to get the right verbiage and move forward. It's not hard to do. Everybody's got them, the policies, right? And then how we implement it. So thank you.
And let me reiterate one more time, because I know I'm going to get burned on social media. The last sentence I have on here is, upon completion of the procedures and guidelines by the chief and town attorney, I would be willing to discuss this issue further for implementation. And that's the same as from 2 years ago.
I'm going to, when you're recognized, you can. You're not recognized, and I would ask you to keep your comments to yourself until you're recognized. What I've handed out to you is on the parish website, and I think it's very important that you read this. And I highlighted just a few sentences that need to be possibly addressed prior to the training needs to be done in this proposal when it is approved. In the parish, it shows that, just to read a little bit of it, it's selected deputies on a 24-hour day, 7-day a week. There's 20 deputies in the whole sheriff's department that were selected. They train as a team twice a month to enhance the skills and abilities of each individual. Development of close-quarter combat tactics and firearms proficiency under stressful conditions are emphasized. These individuals possess such positive qualities as independence of mind, self-discipline, motivation, physical stamina in adverse conditions. SWAT operators are highly trained to use the firearms. We have to do so much more training before we enter or ask one of our police officers to enter into one of these type situations. There's situations here that's what you're referencing in this policy that our officers are going to be using that gun for. And they're not going to be trained to do that. They're not going to be trained as of today's training. We've got a parish SWAT team that's trained to do that, and they train twice a month with their entire team. I think if you read through this, we'll recognize that we do have coverages, but we don't need to be asking our officers to jump into a situation that they may jump into, and they're going to feel obligated to do that. And I understand that, because that's their job. But they may be doing even the wrong thing. And they may be risking lives rather than saving lives. So I copied that to give to you, so that, again, you're out of order. And I would ask you to stay quiet until you're recognized. You're speaking, though, and it's being recorded. And so I would submit that to the Public Safety Committee as well when you're speaking with the police chief and making our policies for this rifle. And again, I don't know that there's oppositions to issuing a policy or making a policy. It's just got to be requested, and it's got to be thought through, and it's got to come from our police department. So, now, is there any other comment by the council?
I just say that, I wouldn't expect any police officer to fire in a crowd of people as suggested here. However, if we have a crowd of people and someone is at a distance firing at them, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in today. The world's not like it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. The world has changed. have incidents at Thurman Hammond where somebody jumps out of a car with automatic weapons, starts firing at the wrong person sitting at a gas pump. We had an attempted carjacking here in this town. We had armed robbery a year or so ago at an ATM on 22, just outside of town, another one on 21. That's the world we live in. And again, this is a police officer that requested this, and I think we honor him by having a serious discussion of this, which we've already started here tonight. But this is not a final policy, it's a proposal, it's a draft. I'm happy to have the chief look at it and have, provide his own input, as well as the town attorney.
Okay. Go ahead.
We actually have a guest in the audience tonight. I hate to call you out, Ryan. He owns Gun Talk, and he actually teaches training courses. I'm assuming you're here tonight because of the discussion?
Yes.
It's no pressure. You don't have to, but I'd love to hear your thoughts if you want to contribute. Do you mind coming up? Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Ryan Gresham. I own a company called Gun Media. We also have a company called Radio Training out of Robert. So we're kind of a nationally recognized media company in this business.
And you live in town. You live on, yeah. Just wanted to clarify.
Thanks for taking that. Or speak up louder. So I have I'm kind of a nationally recognized gun expert. We run training classes. We also have a training facility where I have like the biggest gun companies in the world are coming to our place and releasing new products and training people and that kind of thing. We also let SWAT teams train at our place. We have outdoor shooting, live fire. We also have shoot house training facilities indoors. So we have Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, Hammond SWAT. We've had federal agencies come here. The director of training for us was 30 years law enforcement, director of training for air marshals, and running up 2 times on Top Shot at History Channel. But just to offer some thoughts, I mean, I don't know what happened in the past, or the scuttlebutt of whatever happened with, cars or former employees or whatever, but having police officers having rifles in their vehicles is not like a new concept. And there's a reason why thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of officers do carry rifles in their vehicles. Training is good. We can all agree. Everyone's like high-fiving, yes, that's good. Training is something that should be implemented, and there should be held to a standard. But to say, like, we're worried about the safety, but I'm hearing from some people, it sounds like we're worried about the legal safety of being sued more so than the safety of the citizens or the visitors to the town. I know that is a concern when you're drafting this stuff, but don't forget the point is the safety of the people who are in the town, not, I hope we don't get sued. Like, that's probably not number one. Probably shouldn't be number one, is my opinion. But if I can help in any way, this isn't like, and hopefully you do have officers that you can trust, but they'd have to be like vetted, they'd have to be trained up, and then somebody, a trainer of some sort of law enforcement, would go, yeah, he's okay to do this, or he's not. And then I think having the option is a good option. I could probably stand up here and bore you guys with 100 examples of why it would be a good idea. Certainly firing into a crowd is a bad idea, but I mean, I live in Madisonville, I'm on the river all the time, I was out there for the fireworks. If I was a bad guy, and we have thousands of people lined up on the shore, you don't have to be on the land. Okay? You can be 100 yards away. We have churches here. Churches are always a target for this stuff. And bad stuff happens everywhere. I travel all around the country for work. Newtown, Connecticut is a name you may have heard of. I've been in Newtown, Connecticut many times. It is Mayberry. It is Madisonville. And like 20 kindergartners were killed in Newtown. So rifle's not always the answer, but it's definitely a tool that should be in the toolbox for trained police officers, would be my take.
Would you just state for the record your name and your address?
Sure, absolutely. Ryan Gresham, I live at 115 Main Street.
Okay.
Brian, do you have any idea of what, you said this is common, is this standard for police officers to have a long gun in their vehicle with them?
I'm not a law enforcement expert as far as like policies and stuff go, but I mean, it seems to be pretty standard from what I've seen, and Barty could probably talk to it more, but I mean, we do work with, I'm not a law enforcement guy, but we work with a lot of law enforcement. We work with a lot of special forces folks. We don't work with everybody. We work with world champion competitive shooters. I mean, carrying rifles in cruisers is not like a new idea. It's not like, oh, what would happen if, like, there's thousands and thousands of examples. And you're right, it's a low percentage chance they would have to use it, but there's a lot of examples that we don't have to guess at to see why that might be helpful. And, you know, I mean, Madisonville is a small town, but it's part of a huge area, right? You know, you could say, well, it's like it's a 30-mile wide city with 250,000 people in it is where we really are, right? That stuff happens everywhere, so. But I don't know about like policies and writing all that stuff up. I mean, there needs to be a policy, but I would hope that you guys wouldn't kick the can down the road and like, you need to write the policy. You need to write, no, he needs to write the policy. We never got any policy, so we're not going to discuss it. Like, who gives a crap? There's a policy, discuss it, debate it. If you don't like the policy, change it, but let's start somewhere. It would be my take.
Do you work a lot with law enforcement?
Oh, yeah, to some degree. I mean, I'm not law enforcement.
Do you know how many have no policy and guidelines in place, but yet they let their officers put rifles in their cars?
I have no idea, no.
Yeah, I bet none. I bet none.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that, I mean, I know, I'm not a legal expert or a law enforcement guy, but yeah, I mean, it seems like a policy would be good, but I wouldn't be like, in 2 years from now, if we're going, wow, we never wrote that policy. Like, let's get on with our lives, write the policy, debate the policy, pick a policy, and implement something.
Right, right. But I also know several municipalities that do not allow long rifles at all in their police.
And they're wrong.
Well, that's in your opinion, because you're in the gun business. You want to sell guns.
I don't care. I don't care.
That's right.
I live in Madisonville. I live across from school.
What do you do for a living? Let me ask you that.
I make TV shows.
Okay, about what?
Guns.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So in the municipality business, we have to protect the town as well as the citizens and the police officers. And fortunately for us, we have a great police chief. We have our own in-house trainer. So we need a policy in place before we're allowing long guns to go into vehicles. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. You need a policy.
Now we get into discussions. Thank you very much for.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I can help, and
Okay.
I do have a facility. If the facility can be of help to you guys, we don't charge any of these SWAT teams or anything for anything anyway.
Wonderful.
It's free, so, yeah.
Do y'all use this facility for your target practicing? Do we pay for that? I mean, it sounds like this one's free.
It's a better deal.
Thank you, Ryan. I hated to put you on the spot, but I couldn't let it pass without asking, so thanks.
2 cents.
Yeah.
Stacy, come on.
Can I make a comment?
One second, I've recognized her, and then I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Okay, we're talking about
State your name and address.
Stacy Belmain, 103 Renee. I'm sorry, I assumed it was already there.
It has.
I know. Anyhow, let me start out here. Over 2 years ago, I had been coming here, oh God, way over 2 years ago. But before that, I had been very critical of Madisonville not putting the shotguns, rifles in the police cars. Now, let me give you why I can say this, because yes, I have worked at a police department for my dad, who spent 5 years with LSU teaching police work from New Orleans to Lake Charles, which is one of the reasons he was hired by Morgan City. When he got to Morgan City, he put the first thing he did was the safety of the officers, because Morgan City was 24/7 oil, and it was moving. I mean, we had, FBI came and picked up prisoners from the Morgan City Police Jail. They were that bad. He put automatic weapons, and he put a shotgun in every vehicle and a lock. Now, if he knew to do this in the 60s, and by the way, when you're talking about what happened on Bourbon, my daughter's a manager at Latrobe in the French Quarter. She's on various committees. She has been telling them for 11 years that Bourbon Street was a target. She went to a meeting 2 months before it happened, told them again, Bourbon Street is a target. And nobody ever listened. I think, and I've talked to people who lost people on Bourbon. So it's not something you want to have see. My personal experience, if I hadn't had a 90-pound dog when I came home at 9 o'clock at night in 2022, I wouldn't be standing here. I would be dead, and nobody would even know what happened, because the car pulled in, put its headlight, it came in on Renee Street instead of staying on the other side. It came over by the tree line on my property with its headlights on me as I'm unloading groceries for 15 minutes. The front gate is open. My 90-pound dog is on the front step. That's what kept me alive, because the car sat there with its lights on. And as soon as I said to the dog, I'm going to call the cops, the car took off like a bat out of hell. I couldn't even get a license number. Paul wasn't on duty that night. Something had happened. Called the sheriff's office. The poor sheriff's deputy took 15 minutes to get there, and he was flying low. He ran around Madisonville looking for this nondescriptive little white car. Never could find anything, but he tried. If the dog hadn't been there, I would not be alive to say something. So don't tell me about SWAT and all this other. It takes time. And when a police officer is in danger, you don't have time. You've got to make an instant decision, and you better have it right. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm teaching at Bayou Lacombe Junior High. One of my students, to scare me, comes to school with an 8-inch hunting knife to threaten me in front of all of the students. Now, so don't tell me what can happen. We had a kid bring a gun to Madisonville Junior High.
You're over your 3 minutes.
And I know.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Roy Ogle, 102nd Street. I come to most of these meetings, committee and council, and I remember people's comments pretty well. 2 years ago, when this was brought up, I would say at least 2, if not 3, of the council members were immediately against it, and possibly the mayor. That's what I remember from the meeting. So then you're saying, we need this guy to write a policy for us, but you've already said you're against it. So why would he write a policy if it's not going to get passed? That's a waste of time. It's not just a police officer that's brought this up, and it wasn't just 2 years ago. Mr. Yang made a comment at a council meeting 1 or 2 months ago about it being brought up again, and she was told, we're waiting on Barney. We're waiting on Barney. We don't have a policy. We're waiting on Barney. There was nothing said that there were meetings that were had about it. That was not told to us that Barney said no, Barney did this. No, it was just said, we don't have a policy. We're waiting for one. We have to wait for it. We have to wait for it. It's been 2 years and we're still waiting for it. We do have a school in this town. I think I'm the closest that's been in schools when school shootings were happening around the country. You want to be prepared. And again, we're going to bring up what happened at Keith Young Steakhouse, how long it took for the sheriff's department to get there. I don't think it's the responsibility of one person, and I think it's ridiculous that it's taken 2 years to discuss a policy. It should have been brought up earlier, especially when there's people in the public who have asked for it, including your police officers. And finally, I'd just say that everybody who comes here deserves respect and deserves to be treated a certain way, and I think y'all should watch on how you talk to people sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Down?
I don't think there's anybody here who is an expert in long gun protocols. I really don't. And what I'm hearing is that we want to create a document and reinvent the wheel. So I did review the patrol rifle policy that was not introduced but provided by Councilman Ogle. Here it is right here. And it really doesn't look good. Okay, I'm really almost shocked to see that New Orleans produced this product. And it's not so much that it didn't have some good intention, it's just that there's a lot of ambiguity to it. And even though our guest had mentioned that, well, liability of the town is secondary, that's my job, okay, to protect the town. And I can tell you this, if one of those long guns were used and pursuant to a protocol that was incorrect or ambiguous, the lawyer would have a good time with this policy right here, because there's a lot of ambiguities to it. And all I would finally say is that whatever protocols that you agree upon, before you adopt them, I think you should pass it by your insurer, because if you're not insured because they didn't approve it or there was some defect in it, this town's going to be hit pretty hard. And although life is greater than money, you can't ignore one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Barney Turney, the police chief. Well, Mike and I, our lieutenant, we reviewed multiple policies, okay? We actually have a policy drafted up, okay? It goes all the way down. We got state police policy. We got several policies that we looked at, that we reviewed. We went all the way down to how you store the gun. Do you keep it in your trunk, keep it in your car? We went as far as getting ammunition, because we are a small town, that if we had to go to our residence or business or whatever, that the ammunition, you mentioned that it goes through walls and hits other homes, hits other plazas. The ammunition we were looking at, or what we were exploring, was ammunition that would basically disintegrate if it did strike an individual or whatever we had to shoot. You know, we put a lot of work and a lot of effort into trying to prepare this, to try to ensure that, you know, and I agree, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's there. You know, I don't think I know a supervisor out there that likes this gun, or he's if you're a police officer who likes this gun, then something's wrong, okay? Look, I'm old school. I carried a sawed-off Remington 870 shotgun the entire time I worked in my world up until now. And there wasn't no rifles back then. There wasn't anything. Everybody did it with sawed-off shotguns. Well, now we're in a new world now that we got rifles, but like I said, we went as far as even looking at the ammunition. You know, I don't want to be in a home and shoot and kill somebody 3 houses over. So the ammunition we were actually looking at, we were exploring, was also ammunition that would stop when it did strike a person. I haven't reviewed our policy that we did in probably a year or two. Mike and I got it together, and it hasn't been provided to our legal counsel. It hasn't been provided to anybody, because we took a little bit of everything. And I mean, there's certain things that you think of. Everybody's the use of this weapon. It's the storage of it. It's the you know, I don't care what kind of policy we write. We're not going to cover every aspect of when that gun has to be coming. I carry a gun on my side and have for 46 years, 47 years. There's not a policy that's going to cover every single time I got to pull that gun out. We're going to try to get the best we can to try to protect life, limb, and obviously our town and our community, okay? So No, I agree that we have to try to balance, it's a balancing act that every law enforcement does. Mayor, I agree with what you read. I think what you read was obviously directed towards the SWAT team. The majority of the sheriff's office, everybody in enforcement at sheriff's office in uniform carries these weapons in their cars. So it is a different policy than what the SWAT members are going to use. Sheriff's office does not have a full-time SWAT team, and thank God we don't have a need for it as of right now. New Orleans has, all your larger cities have a full-time SWAT team. Our SWAT team, or I say ours, the sheriff's office SWAT team is comprised of individuals that work on the street every day, on investigations or whatever. It is a different rule because the majority of the SWAT teams are going into a dwelling. I know the majority of our use of this weapon is going to be traffic stops. So that's the majority of what we do. Now granted, they run into a dwelling, they run into a business, we can sit here and talk for days on when and where we may have to use it. And, the good Lord's willing, we'll never have to take it out of there except for training. We will be well trained if we are allowed to carry it. We're going to be trained properly. We have an in-house trainer that has been training for many, many years. So this is not something that we just kind of threw up on the table. We have done a lot. We have reviewed policy after policy after policy. And like I said, it gets down to where, you got to keep your car locked. You got to make sure it's locked. If you go on vacation, you take it out your car. There's just so many different aspects of the policy outside of when you're going to use it. Just having a gun in the car, and ensuring that our people are properly trained. So, just want everybody to understand, this is not something we just, no pun intended, shot from the hip on, that we've really done a lot of research on this. And I agree, this gentleman, I agree with Bruce. We have to be protected. We've got to protect this community. We've got to protect the town. We've got to protect our people. But we're not in a community where we have a lot of calls for service that's going to take us into a dwelling. Okay, it may happen. Okay, hopefully it will not, but the majority of what we do is traffic enforcement here. And we're so damn proud of that, we're thrilled to death. That my greatest challenge is traffic. We do have some in between that this is a weapon that we hope it only gets unleashed is when we got to clean it or we got to go practice, or we got to qualify. Otherwise not, I want the damn thing to stay locked up as soon as it can.
And again, I appreciate you coming up.
Yes, sir.
Because I think you've clarified that you haven't ignored it, you've looked at it.
Absolutely.
You and Mike have looked at the situation.
Yes, sir.
You just haven't.
It just hasn't been.
You haven't completed it.
That's correct.
To a point that it needs to be submitted either to the safety committee or to the legal department.
That's
right?
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we're not
because
going to do
again, in addition to that, the issuing the rifle, in addition to selecting the people that you want, or you think that has the stability, mental capability, or either the physical assets to enter into these type situations.
Yes, sir.
Have we done any training? And I'm looking at this sheet again. Have we done any training? Because the SWAT team here at St. Tammany says they do the training on barricaded suspects.
That's correct.
Have we done any of that?
We have.
The answer is no. Hostage situations, have we done any training on that?
No. I mean, I've been in the hospital.
It's one after another, though.
I agree.
That training is the issue.
It's key.
Is key.
Absolutely.
So that you know exactly what you're getting into and how you're going to proceed with it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, and look, let's put the cards on the table. We live in a parish, we live in a town for damn sure, and a parish, I can't say the parish as much as I say our town, but it's so rare that you do want to train on as much as you can. This gentleman brought up the school, okay? The schools terrifies us. We have 3 schools, 1 in our city limits and 2 outside close, which is Lancaster and Elementary School. That if something happens, we're probably going to respond to those 2, okay? Because they're going to respond to us. Something happens at our school, we're going to handle it. It's one of those situations where you plan, and you train, and you hope to God you don't ever need it. But if you do, you want to be ready. But like I said, we went as far as, without repeat myself, we went as far as hoping we have the right ammunition. That if we do have to shoot through a wall or through a house, we don't want to kill the wrong person. We don't want to kill anybody. But we don't want the bullet going somewhere else, straying away from where our target was. So, when I say that, I hear all the conversations, I hear the guests and everybody talking, and I appreciate everybody. But this is not something we just laid around and did nothing on. We've done a lot of work on this so far, and we just, we have the policy, okay, and it hasn't went through legal because I'm just not ready for it to go through legal yet. We don't have it to where we feel comfortable that it's going to meet our needs here in this town.
And it should be.
Yes, sir.
It should be led by you.
Yes, sir.
Not by any councilman or the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
It should be led by you, because it's going to be enforced by you.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to be the one that's going to stand up and.
I appreciate you doing, you clarifying
Yes, sir.
what you've been doing on it.
And look, nobody say anything wrong. I'm not saying there's anybody wrong, but we also don't want anybody thinking that we just sitting there with our finger in our ear and we didn't do anything about it, man. That's not accurate also.
I totally
Okay?
agree.
Please understand. So, you know, and like I say, I'm going to rattle it on, but we're not reinventing this wheel. This wheel's already there. We just need to fine tune it to the town of Madisonville and to our officers.
Barney, thank you
Yes, sir.
for reiterating that. You're the experienced law enforcement person in this room.
Yes, sir.
Well experienced, 46 years, and I've known you for a long time.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't doubt anything you put down on paper.
Yes, sir.
But that's why I'm saying it has to come through you and work through Bruce,
Yes, sir.
because he's the legal expert. You're the law enforcement expert. And it can't come from anybody up here. None of us are law enforcement, and none of us are attorneys.
And look, I'll take any help I can get, Councilman. Obviously, you know, I mean, and look, the last thing, yes, Bruce and I will be the final thing before we bring it to you guys for y'all's review or whatever, but, look, this is a weapon. Look, I'll admit it right here, I hate this weapon. I hate having to living in a world in times we're in right now to where you gotta carry this damn thing. I hate it. But we're in a world where we have to, guys. We have to come to the fact that people pass through Madisonville. You know, we made an arrest on a murder suspect in a while back on simple speeding violation. So you never know what you're getting out with. Is that the exception and not the rule here? Absolutely it is, but it still happens. You know, I just want our people to be ready. I want to be able to protect the people we serve, and I want to protect us. If we can't be protected, then we can't protect you guys. And I know I want to sound corny, but that's the truth of it, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you allowing me to talk.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, Chief, here's one question for the chief before you come up, Stacy. You know, everything you mentioned there is in this policy that I got off of NOPD's policy, except for the ammunition. So thanks for bringing that
Hey,
up.
look, Council, please understand, I'm not being critical of your policy, by no means. The one we got, I think, is 5 or 6 pages. Like I said, we go into stuff that's outside the realm of the utilization of the gun, to storing the gun, to make sure somebody don't steal the gun, the proper ammunition. You go on vacation, you got to ensure your vehicle is locked. You got to ensure you got an accurate lock inside that vehicle. They're not going to break it. You know, so there's a lot more. Yes, I appreciate your policy, and I appreciate the interest, but we went further than that. We got to go to the little technical stuff also, not just the shooting or the usage of the weapon, I guess, for lack of better words.
That's all good, but again, it's been 2 years. I mean, when do you think you might have a policy that's ready for us to look at?
Well, we've got to step it up soon, within the next month or two. Okay?
I'm going to, again, urge you to, you do this on your time frame.
Yes, sir.
It's not something the council or the mayor should push you into. And asking you for a time frame is, I think it's inappropriate.
Well, we
You do it on your time frame.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate it. We got the majority of it done. Like I said, we just have to, I'm not presenting y'all something that's even 99%. I want to present y'all with something that's 100%. And we try to cover everything we can. Every time we think we got it, yes, something maybe pop back up that we may have, it was in there, but we didn't feel as comfortable for even to present it to Mr. Banner.
When you're ready, not only to write it, but to enforce it.
Yes, sir.
You submit it.
I will. Thank you. Thank all y'all.
Stacy, you have a last comment?
Okay, Stacy Bellman, back again, 10318. One of the things that I also want to emphasize, I have raccoons at my house that are friendly, but we have had an alligator come along years back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my dad was just going to push it back across the highway. You have things now, and I talked to people when they had the storms, the coyotes came in, and the alligators came in, and everything else. So not only are you dealing with, am I going to have to shoot this rifle at a human being, you may have to fire a rifle at some of these creatures that are threatening other people.
Let's don't put that in the policy.
No, but I'm just saying, just realize, because like the alligator was like 6 feet, and we had to call Slidell, took a half an hour to get the alligator there, and when I finally got my dad in and the dog back in the yard before the alligator ate the dog. But trying to, get people to understand, if you have to call on wildlife and fisheries to do something, it takes a while for them to get there, if they get there, and they have to tag it and remove it according to
Thank you, sir.
federal law.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, Chief, thanks for getting up and speaking. I appreciate that. And is it Emily? I'm so glad we can call you the wrong name, sorry. She finally asked the correct question. It sounds like the public's unaware of what actually goes on in the committees, right? So as you heard the chief mention, yes, this was brought up originally by Officer Quads, right? And since that point in time, there have been several meetings, conversations, but that's what we do behind the scenes in our committee meetings. So I'm glad you asked that, and he clarified it when he was up there. So it's a good point.
During these meetings, I think that can be better presented to the public about what goes on in this meeting.
Point taken.
Thank you also, Emily, for pointing out that a majority of this council said they weren't interested from the get-go. Why would the police chief be in a hurry to get anything done under those circumstances?
Well, I'll respond to that, because I don't remember what my response was the night it came up. I know it was petrifying, it still is to me, because after that, we had meetings and we discussed how we could possibly move forward. And that opportunity was left there. It's something that obviously this man's put a lot of work into, and it's something that he and Mike and his staff are working on, and I appreciate that, and I'm not going to push him to wrap it up on a time frame that he's not comfortable with. So that's, I think the comment, is an easy out, and I don't think the chief would accept that comment, and I certainly don't.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn
Motion.
by Councilman Dennis, second
Second.
by Councilwoman Faison. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.